if you're not giving it to him, like he's a man. They are literally genetically programmed to want to reproduce and to have sex and fuck. Like that is what men do.
Welcome to Secrets of a Sugar Daddy. Here's your host, Marcus.
Welcome to another episode of Secrets of a Sugar Daddy. And today, it's going to be a fun show because I have my co-host, Amy.
Hello.
Amy and I haven't done a podcast together, just you and me, in a long time.
It's been a minute.
I mean, this is how we started, right?
I know, yeah.
And then we've had a ton of guests.
Yeah.
Angie has joined us for a lot of episodes. We had your birthday show that was amazing.
That was really awesome.
That was a lot
really
of fun, right?
Yeah, I love that.
Here we are, you
Finally.
and I.
Almost 2 months later.
Yeah. I wasn't actually planning on doing one this week because I've got a few episodes in the pipeline that I haven't even released yet.
Right.
So I was going to kind of take a break, but you called me last night. You said you have some news.
Yeah.
You have a story to tell.
I have a story to tell. I have many stories to tell, actually.
Oh my gosh. So here we are. What happened?
Okay.
I lost sleep last night wondering what's going on.
What's going on? Yeah. So first of all, I hope you're doing okay. Everything's great. We'll get to that. Second, so my sugar daddy of like 2 years. So I get this like call from him randomly last night, and I've seen him like a couple times. He's kind of in town, and
Is he in town now?
yes.
Okay.
And so like we, went to dinner and stuff like that, and, just like chit chatted, like caught up. Right. And so normally I don't really hear from like him, and I like talk like randomly. It's very random. There's no, whatever, but normally he doesn't call me unless, it's like, oh, I haven't just seen you in, a month or two. So I want to like hear your voice. Right. So he calls me last night.
You're wondering, uh-oh.
Yeah. I was like, what was I supposed to like go on? Was I supposed to like pick him up? Was I supposed to like go out with him? Did I miss something? Like, I have a lot going on right now. And so I wasn't sure. And this was the last thing I was expecting. And he was like, gets on the phone and he was like, so what are you doing? Blah, 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 blah. Small chat. Right. And he's like, so there is this podcast I've been listening to. And he was like, this girl, like, you need to listen to this because this girl sounds just like you. Like, she is your vocal.
My goodness.
She is your vocal twin. And I just.
Are you serious?
I got quiet. I was like.
Because he doesn't know that you're on this podcast.
No. So I wanted to keep my life separate from that, right? But I guess our podcast has gotten like popular enough that I mean, he is literally the last person I ever expected to listen to a sugar daddy podcast. And
how did he find it?
Well, he said that he heard it on like on the TV or like the radio, or I mean, like he heard about us through like media. Yeah.
Well, I know our downloads are increasing rapidly, and we're getting lots of Instagram followers.
Yeah,
so.
And he just said, he's like, well, I heard about it from somewhere, but he's like, I was looking for it, and I thought it was this other one, and it was like this one of like these girls talking, and he's like, it just like to me that didn't sound good, and so he just like I went down to the next one, and not saying that theirs is bad, but it just like he was like that's. I just wasn't interested in it. Right. And he's like, so then I clicked on this next one. And he was like, and then I found it.
Secrets of a Sugar Daddy.
Secrets of a Sugar Daddy. So I was like quiet. I was pretty quiet, right? I was kind of like, oh, excuse my language here, but I was like, oh, fudge. Like I cannot.
You think you're in trouble now.
I just, I didn't know what to think. I honestly wanted to keep this life very separate just because... I mean, I don't think that he's not a very judgmental person, but at the same time, it's like the fear. Like I want to be authentically me the entire time. Yeah. So if I have to sit there and worry about someone like listening and like I have to watch what I say, I mean, I always protect the people that I'm with, right? Like I really do change the dates, the times, like even the sequence of events, right? I change all that because I really care about the people that I've been with, and we are friends.
Right.
I'm friends with every single one of my people, and I love them and care about them. So I don't want to jeopardize them in any way, shape, or form. So I do change everything about everything. Like there's no way that anyone would ever be able to know who that person is.
Yeah.
So with that being said, now you're
trying to think of all the things you've said.
Oh my God. I'm like, well, and I've never listened to a show. So I like, oh my God, like what?
Because you were there.
Yeah, I was
there.
there. So and he was just, I was like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, I'm like just a couple episodes in. And he's like, it's really good. He's like, this girl he's like, she is all about, like, she's exactly like you. Like she likes older men. She, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, and
he went, be your twin.
He was like, yeah. And he just, I was like, oh my God. Oh no.
And what did you say?
So I was just like, okay, I said, hold on. I said, okay, give me 1 sec. I said, is it Secrets of a Sugar Daddy? he's like, so you've heard of it? And I said,
I heard of it.
Yeah. I was like, well, I said, that's actually me. And he's like, you're shitting me. He's like, no. He's like, you're pulling my leg. He didn't believe me for like 2 or 3 minutes. I was like sitting there trying to convince him. I'm like, no, that really is me. Listen more to the show and you'll see, you're going to hear very similar stories. Like, I mean, you're going to recognize you. And so he just was like,
gosh,
he was like, oh my God, I cannot believe it. Like, this is like this is you, like what? And I mean, we talked like for an hour and a half. He was so ecstatic and so supportive.
So he wasn't upset.
He wasn't upset. No, like I really thought, I was like, oh my gosh, like it's over. Right. I really did. I was like, oh my gosh, it's over. Like he is probably going to be so mad at me. Like, I don't know.
But you guys have always been very open and shared.
Very, very, very open. And we've been together. There's a reason that we've been together for 2 years, right? Mm-hmm. But the thing is I'm not sure why I was so nervous. Like to me, he's such a private man mm-hmm. that it was like he would. I'm not sure that. It's hard to say if he would be okay with that or not. And it's not the fact, like we're both non-monogamous, so mm-hmm. we're both that. But it's not that. It's more like you're on the radio, like you're on this like app thing right, or whatever. Podcast thing. And people like, this is your voice. Like people recognize your voice and whatever. So, I mean, it was literally the last thing I was expecting last night.
So how did it end? Like,
oh, he was so ecstatic. Like he was giggling the entire time. And he like all day today, he's been like blowing up my phone. He's like, I'm dating a podcast star.
Oh my gosh. So it sounds like
he is just so starstruck right now. And it's so cute. I love it. I love it a lot. Like he's just like, he's very ecstatic about it. And he's just like, I've never dated like a star. And I'm like, I'm not.
So your status has been elevated.
I guess. Wow. I mean, in his eyes. What I'm worried about though, in all honesty, is I don't want him to forget that I'm still me. I'm still me. Like I'm still me. I honestly my persona, and you can verify this, my persona actually is the same. Like I do not change for anyone or anything, including this podcast, right? Like I am 100% authentically Amy mm-hmm. all the time. And so it just was like, that's the only thing I'm worried about is, you're going to be starstruck for a while. I get that. Like
starstruck.
I know, right? But that's what he keeps telling me. And I'm like, he's like, I don't think you realize how big your guys' podcast is getting.
It's growing. It's growing very rapidly. It's fun to watch.
Is it? Yeah. See, I don't know. Yeah. I only know like what people tell me, right? I actually don't really know. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, it's been a little interesting today. I have a little bit of like a hangover feeling because the energy, like my energy levels were like way through the roof. And so now it's like, okay, I'm really tired right now because last night we were talking for he was just chat. It was so cute. It was very cute.
So do you think he would be willing to come on the show?
So That is something even told him. I was like, listen, like they're not allowed to ask about you on the show. Like they are not, like they know that things that they are not supposed to do with you, just because I wanted to protect his identity.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not sure. Like I think he said that he was binge listening to it.
We got another binge listener.
Before he like called me, he was several episodes in,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, it just sounded so much like you. He's like, he was like,
That's
like,
unbelievable.
Yeah, he was like, he's like, I never put two and two together. He's like, it never once crossed my mind that this could actually be Amy.
There you go. I've actually sent the podcast to friends of mine who listen to it and go, that's not you.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it is. Like, that doesn't sound like you.
Yeah.
Maybe it just comes across a little different. I don't know.
I'm not sure, but it was very interesting. It was hilarious. He could not stop laughing. He was so giggly and just,
wow.
He's ecstatic. He's just.
So that was not the reaction you were expecting.
It is the complete opposite reaction. I thought for sure he was going to drop me like a fly.
Yeah.
Like I really did. I was kind of, like I said, I was kind of hoping to keep it separate just because that way I can talk more. I don't have to monitor how I feel and what I say.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't feel like I have to do that with him anyways.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, I don't know. It'd be like public speaking, right? Like it'd be like me standing up in front of an auditorium. I will get nervous. Like even just presenting to one person in the room, I get nervous.
Sure.
You know what
natural.
I mean? It's just like this natural like thing that happens. So now I'll figure it out. But yeah, I thought it was really funny that he was just like, oh God, like I've never dated a podcast star. I'm like, we're not even stars.
I don't know. It's elevated to that.
Yeah, we're
status.
not to that. But like people know, right? Like people know the show. And he was literally the last person on this planet
Right.
that I ever expected to listen to the show.
Well,
Yeah.
good. That's an exciting story.
I wish I could.
Because I know you've been concerned about it.
Yeah.
From day one.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
you shared those concerns that you did not want it to jeopardize that relationship. And basically we can't really talk about it because you were worried of information that got out that he might be upset with.
Yeah.
But he's not. So that's great.
Yeah, well, I mean, he hasn't listened to it all.
I actually think it gets better. It's completely different than it was from episode 1 and 2. I mean,
Is it?
It's kind of.
I don't know. I've never listened to it.
I mean, gosh, we've been doing it now for 6 months, and life's changed so much just in 6 months.
Is that all it's been? Is 6 months?
Yeah, but we're doing 1 to 2 episodes a week and releasing them. So yeah, it seems like we've done a lot.
Oh, man.
It seems longer than that.
Yeah, I don't know. But my time is, I don't have any time.
You have a terrible sense of time.
Yeah, for sure. But anyways, so with that being said, what about you? Like, what's going on with you?
Not much has changed because even though I'm on the site, I really am not messaging people. I'm not really meeting new people. There's people that respond to my profile because I've changed it more to the podcast type profile, telling them about the podcast. So I do have a lot of people that message me and says, oh my God, I'm going to listen to it. And then they'll start asking me questions. And I have met a couple people for drinks, strictly just to kind of answer questions, just to be a friend, give them advice in person. And just because maybe, I like having a beer or two and talking to people. It's fun.
Right, yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm still kind of dating the same few.
I thought it was just one now.
It's 1 or 2.
1 or 2.
It's
Gotcha.
2.
2.
Maybe 3.
Yeah.
But,
Hey, no worries.
so the
Ooh.
school teacher,
Yeah, she came back.
she went to Mexico,
Yes.
had a fabulous time with this gentleman,
Okay.
and then she came home and ended it.
I
haven't got the full story.
I wanna know
told
this
her
full
to
story.
call me and let me
Yeah.
know, but she said she was too drunk. But it just wasn't aligned. She had this fairy tale vision of what it was going to be, and it's so soon. People fall in love, or they fall into this
Infatuation. They fall in
this
infatuation
fantasy of
and
what
lust.
it's going to be too quickly. And I warned her. I was like, you can't know somebody that quick. You've got to
But that's
get
what
past
this gentleman, like when he messaged me, that's what he was asking.
Yeah.
And he was portraying this fantasy. Like he even says, I will give you like the world. Right.
Right.
And I mean, he was willing to like kind of hand everything on a gold platter, essentially.
And he is wealthy.
Yeah, well,
He's a retired lawyer and
Yeah.
has a few houses, and one in Mexico, one in Sedona, Arizona, and which is a beautiful place to live and retire.
yeah.
But
He immediately, like, he even told me, so when he was talking to me about it, he was like, you need to immediately, it was like, I said, well, I'm in school, like, I'm not really sure.
and I think he's 70.
Yeah. Well, no, he was like 60 or 70. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think she told
his
me he was in
profile
70.
says, like, I think 60, what I remember. Because 60 is my cap. That's what I have my cap at, is 60. So, I mean, maybe he was lying. I don't know. But I remember, like, him just immediately, like, okay, you have to switch from ASU to Northern State or whatever that is. NSU or something like that. NAU. Sorry, NAU. And so I was just like, I don't even know, like, what? We haven't even met, and you're telling me this is what you have to do. So I was like, yeah, this is, I mean, I was just entertaining the idea, right? Just talking to him. So I'm sorry that didn't work out for her, but I kind of expected it.
Yeah, I kind of expected it too.
Yeah, I think that's too quick. I mean, don't get me wrong. You know, when I was in DC and my first arrangement out there, like that one, I met it. I mean, it happened bang, bang, bang. But at the same time, I was also very, very independent. Actually, I was not codependent upon him at all.
Right.
It was just something.
It was an adventure for you that you were able to experience because of your situation.
That's how I feel about just kind of everything at this point. Like every arrangement that I've had is an adventure. I see it as an adventure and an experience.
It is an adventure, that's for sure.
Right. Interesting, right? We both have had such interesting, like we don't really go into it expecting anything. Like we set our standards, we're setting our standards. And I think that's something really great that the listeners should do.
Yeah.
Like don't have the expectations because then you're just limiting yourself. At the same time, you know, definitely have standards and have a general idea, but don't be so rigid that you can't be flexible, right? Because then that's when you miss out on opportunities, and not even, and I think personal lives, but I think, you know, professionally as well.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I'm not where I'm at, like the position that I'm in right now at my new job, at this job, I would have not gotten it had I been so rigid. So
yeah,
I was willing to take a chance and I succeeded.
Yep.
For the time being. All right. So what is today's episode about?
Well, I want to dive into the mailbag. I got this email from a listener, and I think we should explore it a little bit.
Okay.
So let me read it here. It's from, her name's Jacqueline. I won't say her last name. I think she actually gave me her real name. But says, hey, Marcus and crew. I have been a listener for quite some time, and I have been on and off sugar baby for about 2 years. I am in my 30s and have always had a platonic friends with benefit relationships with my guys until the most recent came into and out of my life. We did not meet on Seeking, ironically, and it was a long-distance relationship that worked because of my job as a flight attendant. Long story short, I learned that teetering the line between arrangement and relationship does not work, and she puts that in capitals.
Oh.
He wanted the relationship, not me, but I fell hard and fast for this Prince Charming whose true colors showed quickly once the fantasy chase was over. I would love to be a part of the show, and if not, highly suggest you cover that topic in depth on an episode. So Thank you, Jacqueline, for giving us this email.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
First of all, I wish that she was here to elaborate more on he wanted the relationship and not me.
Mm-hmm. But then she said she fell hard and fast.
She's the one that fell. Okay. Yeah. So does it say, like, who ended it?
Well, it says his true colors showed quickly once the fantasy chase was over.
Oh, so he changed.
Well, the problem is you got the honeymoon period.
Oh, yeah,
and it's just a natural part of relationships and dating. And you've got to realize this is not the true colors of this person. Right. Now,
they're the best colors.
They're the best colors, and that is that person.
Yes.
But there's things that they put up with that down the road are going to start annoying them.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's going to be like nails on a chalkboard to them 6 months down the road.
Yeah.
Where in the beginning, they'll ignore those things.
Yes.
Right?
Hands down, 100%.
So you've just got to know you can't fall in love quickly.
Right.
You can't fall for people until you really get to know them. Now, there can be a lot of things that you like about them, and you see this relationship or this arrangement deepening or going further, and you work towards that, and you know in the back of your mind that, yes, there are going to be things that we don't agree on that are going to start becoming annoying, like you and I.
Yeah.
There was
Oh
points.
God, now we're going to start pointing out
Yes.
Amy's flaws.
Well, no, it's not your flaws, but the
It's
things
okay.
that we like to do differently that started annoying me. And you know what those are. Like, I would want to go out and do something, and you're just like, I would rather sit home. You know?
I'm pretty introverted.
Yeah, I don't feel like going. There's people there.
There's
lots of
which
people.
is crazy. A lot of people are like, "Oh, you seem very extroverted," and I'm actually just a very good. I'm an introvert with very good social skills.
Yeah.
And once I get there, I'm fine. It's just.
But dragging you to an event or dragging you to meet my friends was like pulling teeth. Like like just to even go to meet a couple of my friends at the bar and the restaurant to have dinner, you're like, I'd rather not go. I'm like,
you see me like going to my little hole.
I know, I'm dragging you into my car going, look, it's going to be fine. But once you got there, it was great. And and they, you guys had great conversation. And
My
you
mom
enjoyed
does that all the time. My mom literally is like, oh, Amy, sorry, you're going to have to. Amy, just get in the car and go because I know you're going to have a great time.
Right.
I have been like that since I was a little girl. I've always been very shy. So anyways, I'm like defending myself. And I shouldn't be.
But it's
that's
just
how I am,
part of your personality.
Right.
And so that I can put up with in the beginning, but after a while it starts getting annoying to me.
Yeah.
And it's,
Because you're just so extroverted.
I'm not that extroverted, but
yes,
I'm
you
more
are.
extroverted than you are. That's for sure.
That's a lot to me.
And you know what's funny? I was just like you as a little kid. Like when I was younger, I was so shy and introverted and just scared to talk to people.
Yeah.
But I don't know what changed. I think what changed was I started just realizing nobody's better than you.
Yeah.
Everybody is the same. The old story that everybody puts their pants on one leg at a time. They really do.
So how I was raised was like how my mother, and she literally would tell me, she was like, you have to dress, you have to walk like a duck, talk like a duck, and eventually you become a duck.
Whack, whack.
And so what that meant for her and for our family is we were like, in our community, we were actually considered higher status. And so we had to be perfect. We had to look perfect. We had to act perfect. We had to speak perfect all the time. And so because people were constantly looking at us, because my father was so involved in the community, he literally was in charge of everything. Like it's a small town, but I'm talking like mayor. He's like the mayor of our town, right? And so you had to be perfect all the time. And so
It's a lot of pressure.
And like even now, I don't even really go back home, but my mom will constantly tell me, she'll just be like, because she knows that I actually do struggle with going back home a lot. And she was like, everyone constantly talks about you. Like they're constantly asking about you. Like, what's she doing? Like, where is she at? How is she? Blah, 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 blah. And I think that's just normal. But for some reason, I just can't, sometimes when I get in public, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to be Little Miss Perfect, and I'm not, and I'm anything but Little Miss, right? I just have to be like this thing, and it's so much pressure, and I break very easily. I'm actually a very sensitive person.
Yes, you are a very sensitive person.
Yeah.
And that's what I did appreciate about you. Not to just keep harping on Amy, but this is another funny thing. It's like when we would try to go out to eat, especially during the pandemic, you're like, oh, where do you want to go eat? So I'd name off 4 spots. And you're like, no. I'm like, okay, why do you even ask? There's 4 places that I can choose from in your book. And if I choose something other than those 4 places, you're not going to want to go.
Yeah, that is very much so Amy. It is very Amy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those things you learn about people and you put up with them in the beginning.
Yeah.
But then after a while, I wanted to wring your neck because
yeah, I know, I get it.
stop asking me where I want to go to eat. You have to choose because you're the picky one.
I know. And it's just because it's that small town thing. Like you get into your ritual, your little ritual, and I'm comfortable there. Right. And all those places that you're talking about are places that I can be me. I don't have to like look like a Scottsdale girl. I don't have to look like a college student. I can just be my little country bumpkin. I don't have to be that like city girl.
Yeah.
And so it's just nice. And I can sit back, have a drink, and I don't have to like worry about my posture. I don't have to do all this crap, right?
Right.
I get just like sit back and you get wasted, right? I don't, it only takes 2 drinks, but anyways, so.
All right, so back to this email.
Yes.
How do you deal with jealousy? Because when you're dealing with multiple multiple arrangements, there's feelings that do get involved.
Right. So
because I had them, not to mean to interrupt, but I had them when you and I first dated because I didn't understand the dynamic.
Right.
And so once I got past it, it was fine. Like, oh, okay, yeah, she's going to go out with this guy, but she's still coming back to me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or she's not leaving me.
But I also take the time for people like, so I actually do end up dating a lot of guys who are not used to non-monogamous women. Right.
Right.
And
I wasn't used to it.
Right. So, but I coached you and I was very good at communication with you and I like reassured you and I felt like I did all the right things. It's not the same for everyone, but for me, I don't know what it is. It's very natural for me. I naturally like have a big heart and can give my heart to a lot of people. So I just like to make sure that people are okay.
So what happens when you have an arrangement and then you start feeling that they're getting jealous?
So I usually will address it right away. I don't hold on to it. I will address things very quickly.
It's tough though, right?
For me, it's just practice, right? And it's practicing really, I guess, just being like, hey, listen, I'm kind of noticing like something here. What's going on? Like, are you, and if they kind of like stumble over their words a little bit, I will just be like, are you maybe experiencing a little jealousy? Like, and if you are like, please, and I'll check in with them very frequently. Like I'll try to talk to them as much as possible about it.
Make them feel.
Yeah, because they need to realize
they're not losing you.
Yeah, exactly. And you like once you're in my circle, you're in my circle for life. Like you don't leave my circle. It just
You're like the Venus flytrap.
Right. Yeah.
Once they're in there,
I tell people all the time, I'm literally the worst person at breakups. Like it takes months to break up with me because it's one of those things where we always end up as friends. And I mean, really, we're never really broken up. Like you're just, we stop sexual interactions and that's about it. Like that's the only difference. Otherwise, I still talk to you. All the time. And this is all the people, right? So, one thing that I've actually done a little bit of research as well, because for some reason I've gotten a lot. So on my profile as well, I've changed it to more of the essay. The podcast stuff.
Yeah.
And I've been getting a lot of questions about jealousy as well.
Really?
So I think there's something in the air right now about this jealousy issue. And there's been several instances where, the like married men. So I tend to date married men more than I do single people. I prefer that. And one example that I've heard of was the two actually fell very hard for each other. So the sugar baby and the sugar daddy fell very hard for each other. And he couldn't leave his wife, right? And he wouldn't. His wife is his best friend. She's been there since the very beginning, blah, 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 and all that stuff. But the girl actually was devastated and, really was very, very hurt beyond.
The sugar baby?
The sugar baby, was so hurt, crying, just crying, apparently. And he had to take a step back and realize that he himself was being selfish, because he should have never allowed it to get to that point. And he did.
Because he's married.
And
he's never leaving his wife.
So that's the hard part, right? And this is something that I haven't experienced too much, but fortunately the men that I've tended to have dated have experienced this already with like somebody else. The majority of the time, I will say that they actually do not remain friends because the girl has gotten hurt so bad. It's very easy to fall, like we've talked about, people here actually will get married.
Yes.
And so, but if you are a married man, you have got to, there's one of two roads that you can go down, right? And you need to establish that before you ever decide to get into an arrangement. Mm-hmm. And that's, are you going to leave the possibility open and the opportunity open that if you do, and you need to realize this, that if you do decide to do this, is it a possibility? Are you willing to potentially leave your wife? It's not saying that it's ever going to happen, but if it does, because it can, and it has, mm-hmm. where you might fall in love, you might find this wonderful woman and you guys end up falling for each other, falling in love. Are you willing to leave your wife? Or do you decide right then and there that no matter what, even if you do fall for somebody, that you will never leave? And if that's the case, if it's B, that you know that you will never leave, then you need to set up those boundaries. You cannot place.
You're playing with fire.
Yeah, you cannot place that girl in the same realm as your wife. Like it needs to be a completely different entity entirely. And you need to be you need to check in, I think, every time before you see her, and just, you need to have conversations with her and be like, listen, because that girl needs to know. And you need to know, I think it's very hard. I feel very bad for people like that, because I feel that they do end up falling in love with that other person. And I can't fathom that. I mean, but I'm just kind of more of a free spirit, and I will always follow my heart. I will never, no one can ever put chains on these, right? Right. What's that song? Put a ring, something on it. That da, 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 that dance thing. Mm-hmm. And so that will never happen to me. You can't do that to me. It's just, but I decided that a long time ago. And so, but for people who are kind of in a situation where now, they've fallen in love with these girls, and you as a girl, you're not allowed to get jealous. You can't get jealous. We're supposed to not get jealous, but it's you as the man, it's your fault. Honestly. I'm not trying to point the finger here, but it's your responsibility to be no, you can't. This is the boundary. And you have to make that girl realize this is your boundary. You cannot, right? For me, that is when a man hands me money, that right there says no. That's the boundary. You have boundaries. You are limited. That's my perception of it. That's why I like the married men, is because they for the most part will keep their feelings in check. Mm-hmm. And that money immediately puts up a wall for me and is like, Amy, you cannot fall for this guy, because he may love you and care for you, but you will never be anything. You cannot, and I would never cross that line anyways. I will never try to intentionally be a homewrecker, right?
Yeah, and speaking of that, so I was on a podcast last week called Own It Girl.
Ooh.
And it basically was 4 women firing questions at me as a sugar daddy.
Woohoo!
So it was pretty interesting. But one of the things I did get into is they asked if there are married men on the site on Seeking.
Oh.
And I said, yeah, there's actually quite a few. They're in open relationships. And they asked, well, do their wives know about that?
Yeah.
What are you finding?
So, for one, you kind of have to blindly accept what the other person is saying. So if they
But do you ask them right up front, is this okay with your wife? Does she know?
I
or
usually
are we
try
sneaking around?
I definitely try to.
Because you need to know that information.
At the same time, you can also kind of pick up on it, right? Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, but wives, if you're listening to this podcast and if you have a suspicion that your man is if you haven't had sex in 6 months to a year, what do you expect is going to happen?
Yeah, he's getting it from somewhere.
But it's not just that. Well, he may not be, but the thing is, that cannot go on forever. Mm-hmm. Give him free reign. He will just have a straight up conversation with him. Like, figure out, work through your jealousy thing first, right? So as the wife, you need to work through that and be like, well, if you're not giving it to him, like, he's a man. They are literally genetically programmed to want to reproduce and to have sex and fuck. Like, that is what men do.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Women do that too. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but men are definitely wired, and the hormones just start raging.
Exactly.
And
who wants to live life being unhappy, right? Like, if your man doesn't satisfy you, great. Have a conversation, because women, I know we can go forever. I went 2 years celibate, like 2 or 3 years celibate, nothing. And I don't touch myself, I don't do anything. And I shut off completely. And it was just because I was like, I wasn't into it for about 3 years. I just was like, I wasn't into it.
And now you're really into it.
Well, now, I mean, like, the floodgate, like, so it took somebody showing me that I am beautiful, and that like, it really did, because I had serious, really, and I still do. I have self-esteem issues. I fall into that very easily. And it's not, like, I know I'm I know I'm not like the ugliest thing. I know I'm not like the prettiest thing. It just like, it took somebody to be like, Amy, like, you're actually a very beautiful person inside and out. And it took them saying that. Like, I needed them to hear, to make me feel valuable on the inside. And so, anyways, but women, wives, if you're listening, like, you need to allow him to, I think you really should allow him.
Well, this is a tough subject, because you and I both grew up in religious families.
Yes.
We were taught, hey, date, find.
We were taught to be jealous.
Well, and we were also taught to, find the girl or man of your dreams.
Right.
Get married, have kids, live happily ever after.
Right.
Right. And what we're finding is very few people are finding
that happily ever after. Grow up, get married, 2.2 kids, great job, house. But
and
if
happiness.
You listen to what we read to our kids, right? At a young age, are we not read those fairy tale books? I mean, and this is like, there's like a whole thing on this, right? Like, there's a whole study on this, right? And so you're absolutely right. Like, that's what we're taught.
How do you juggle those feelings of that you might be a homewrecker, and you're kind of encouraging women to allow their husbands to go outside of the household?
I would say, women, if you're not sexually, I think that women are just as sexual as men. So the thing is that you're just not turned on by your man anymore.
Yeah.
And
the attraction, it fades.
So I think if you have an honest conversation with yourself and can look at yourself and be like, I'm not attracted. Like, I've dated guys where it shuts off. Like, my faucet, like, will shut off. And there's nothing.
Your faucet.
Yeah, my faucet, like, because, it's like an ocean down there sometimes. So it just
the visual.
Yeah, right. So that, like, it just turns off. And I mean, like, this is outside of like stress, because stress will cause that for me as well. But I would say if it goes on for 6 months to a year, you're probably not attracted to him anymore. Like, you're attracted, there's a reason that you're not attracted to him. I don't know what that reason is. It could be physical, it could be mental. I don't know. But if it's mental, I hope that you're not staying in that, because that's just a toxic relationship.
So what amount of men who have these, I guess, quote unquote, affairs behind their wife's back or with their wife's permission?
Yeah.
How many marriages do you think that actually strengthens?
I think if you can be open about it, I think it actually will strengthen it even more so.
Why?
So the arrangements that I've been in, where actually I ended up with both the husband and wife.
What?
Yeah, I've been with, so I've had multiple, I haven't been in like, when I say multiple, I sound like I've been in hundreds of arrangements. No, I mean, like, the majority of the time I end up dating married people anyways, because I like that. But I would say about half of that, the wives have known more than half the wives have known. And at some point or another, like the wives themselves become curious. And so they'll actually ask to see me.
Really?
Yeah.
You've had that happen?
Yes. And then they are like, oh, I could totally see why she's like very charming, and or they're wanting to explore sexually. So like they are just willing to explore more. Right. So I think that the type of life that I live, I don't judge. I don't hold any judgment. And I feel like people just are attracted to me because that's the type of people that I attract, right? Like, so the law of attraction a little bit. And so I tend to get more open-minded people because that's what I'm putting out there, right? Is I want open-minded people, and I want women who I actually really enjoy, like the wives, because they'll ask me so many questions. And then we get to we have like little girl chats, and we'll go on like little girl dates, and
Wow.
and then they'll want to bed me, so it's like, okay, well, yeah, I'm all about that. And so I think it's really amazing, and the men strengthens it every time because they can see why. And it actually gives them, I think it gives the wife a reason to try more, right? And I think people are voyeurs. I think a lot of people are voyeurs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this whole marriage thing is still very new to me, even though I've been divorced for 6 years. I just never considered it during my marriage.
Right.
It wasn't even a thought.
Yeah.
Even though I had zero sex for the last, 12 of the 16 years I was
Right.
married.
Yeah.
Barely anything. I just never even thought about going outside of the marriage. And so this has been a whole new experience for me, just talking about it, noticing that there are a lot of married men on there, and a lot of them with the wife's permission. And I've actually gone out with married women, but they've all been separated and not living together.
Right.
So I've gone out with a few married women, but they weren't together. And matter of fact, I think most of them now are divorced because they were like in the process of getting the divorce or whatever.
So one of the other things that I've thought about too a lot, and what helps me, if I do start experiencing or, whatever, if I do enter a monogamous, usually I have dated monogamous people. It always ends up non-monogamous just because
On your end or their end?
So I actually am the one that brings it up to them. And that's what I think throws them is people expect men to be non-monogamous, not the woman to bring it up, but I bring it up. So one thing that I would also consider is, women, wives out there, at some point or another, think back to when you were first dating this person, like just dating, right? What is dating? Dating, you're allowed to see other people, right? At what point did you think to yourself, if he is dating somebody else, wouldn't it just be nice if he would just tell me? Right? Mm-hmm. Like, haven't we all thought that? Like when you were dating a girl, like you're just like, if she is dating somebody, why doesn't she just tell me?
I would rather know than not know, because now I'm making up stories in my head.
Right.
Trying to figure out exactly what's going on. And those stories could be true or not, but now I'm having to fill in the blanks with my own imagination.
And if this is your best friend, you should be able to have that. If this is the man or the person that you married, and I see marriage as like I would marry my best friend. Mm-hmm. But my best friends, I can literally talk to them about anything without judgment, and they will not hold it against me. Mm-hmm. Now, if somebody, like we've had guests on here where they will hold it against them, you don't know unless you try. Honestly, like you really don't know until you try, because maybe they're thinking it and they're just as scared as you are because they're thinking the same thing that you are, that, oh, this person will reject me entirely. But you don't know unless you try. And then you're like, you run into the, oh, well, then now they're just going to automatically assume. Well, there is a way to bring it up and there's a way to not bring it up, right? You don't want to just like lay it out there, right? You want to be like, hey, like, what do you think about this? Because I notice that in our relationship, we're kind of like, I've noticed like a difference. We've shifted, we've grown, we've either grown apart or we're kind of lacking this, right? We're lacking this in our relationship a little bit. So how would you go about trying to fix this? And then listen to them and really listen to them. And then from there, hopefully, if they're a great partner, they'll reciprocate and they'll be like, well, what would you recommend? What are some ideas? Let's toss around some ideas, right? And just be like, well, what if you were allowed to date someone and I was allowed to date someone, and but it didn't, like, it just would help fill this gap because maybe we're losing a little bit of attraction. We need a little bit of excitement. Because if you have a lot of drama, I think, in a relationship, it's probably because you're missing communication somewhere. You're missing out on something. There's a lot of tension. Most of the time, I think it's sexual tension, to be honest. Mm-hmm. And so just being able to communicate that and be like, hey, let's really talk about this. I know it's a hard subject, and bring it up little by little. There are some people where you bring it up once, like my stepfather. If you expect him to do anything, it's never going to happen. You have to mention it. You have to prepare him for the conversation. So you have to be like, hey, we're going to have a conversation. It's pretty serious. It's going to be a little serious. You might get uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Give him a couple days. Let him think it over. And then you bring it up to him slowly, very briefly. Let him think that over. And it is a slow process, but at the end, he always ends up like, it takes it because he's so stubborn and he's bullheaded, but he's a wonderful person. It's just like his mind he's been socially conditioned to think a certain way. And so it's very hard for him to grasp external things, even his own children moving away, right? He could not handle it. So,
well, I think it's very important that when you're single, or even if you're married and you're in the dating world, even in the married world, you need to still do self-development. You still need to learn. There's so much to learn, and there's so many sources. Like, I read
the 90. You need to, like, men do the 90. What is that? 97%.
3% man.
3%.
And I was just about to bring that up. So there's so many sources. Like, I read Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus,
right,
many years ago during my marriage. And I'll tell you what, I don't remember that book verbatim, but I do remember that men are like rubber bands and women are like waves. And there's analogies in there that men sometimes have to pull back so they can snap back to you. They got to pull away so they can snap back to you. And it's the same with women. And if you hold them there and you never let them pull away, they can't snap back to you.
Yeah.
And then women's emotions are more like waves. They're up and down, and you just never know.
We're like cats.
Oh my gosh, you just never know which one you're going to encounter. But like 1 minute she hates you, and then 10 minutes later, you're the best thing that's ever happened to her.
Yeah, we're very hormonal, but I mean, we're baby producers. Our bodies are genetic. And I'm not saying that like in a bad way, but we are genetically.
Right. That's what these books and these authors and these courses teach you. And you need to learn and study those, because if you're going to be in this world, the more you know, the better success you're going to have with your partner. I think in just
any world, yeah.
Yeah, and so men and women, don't be lazy. Do the research. Make yourself more intelligent on these situations, and it's not hard. A lot of these things are on Audible. You can listen to them in your car while you're driving. So I downloaded that book I've mentioned multiple times, 3% Man, and basically the book, it's very easy to listen to. It's an easy read, I'm sure, but I like listening to it. And it basically tells you what the 97% of the men are doing to push women away.
Right.
And what 97% of the men are doing to scare women off.
Right.
And there's a lot of things that we talk about all the time, and that's like falling in love too quickly and professing your love right on the first or second date. Yeah. That's not normal. Yeah. You don't know anybody, and we just got through talking about how you can't figure somebody out for a while. Yeah. And there's things that you ignore that will start bothering you later. So just be patient, let things grow organically. Go to YouTube, type in feelings that you have. And it can be simple things like, why is my ex being hot and cold? Or why is she ignoring me? Or something like this. And you're going to get answers to those questions from different psychotherapists, different relationship therapists. And you're going to learn a lot about yourself. Right. You're going to learn a lot about the opposite sex. Yeah. You're going to learn a lot of psychology and why things happen and why not to panic. Yeah. And to understand start doing desperate things.
Yeah. And you won't feel so alone too. Like I think a lot of people, the reason they're afraid to do anything is they feel alone. Like they're the only ones. Mm-hmm. And you're not.
No, and you're going to realize very quickly that these are common issues. These are not just issues you personally are feeling.
Like you and your
partners.
These
are very common.
Yeah, for sure. And the other books that I would recommend, and there's so many men now, and I'm so proud of them. Like they're trying to get more in tune with their feelings.
Yeah.
And the 5 love languages.
Yeah.
Big one.
Another good one.
Huge one. The other one that I really recommend would be Daring Greatly by Brene Brown. And it is like, it's really about like who you have in your arena. I think it really breaks things down very well. And everyone that I've known, every guy that I've ever known to go through it, they're like the best. I fall for them so hard because they can articulate themselves so well. And they're very good at not shaming, blaming themselves or others. And they're very amazing people.
Well, I know I was on that podcast. I was a guest speaker on the podcast Own It Girl. And she said that she had read a book or taken a course called Understanding Men.
Ooh, that would be a good
so
one.
I'm not sure
I'm going to have to look that up.
on that one. But yeah, you'll have to look that one up. But yeah, there's definitely resources out there for both parties. And I think the 3% Man book, yeah, it's geared towards men, but he has people commenting all the time that are women who have read the book and have gotten a ton of great information out of that book.
Yeah.
So these books are not just for one sex or the other. I think they're for both.
Yeah. I mean, even if you're like a gay or, you know, like, what's the word? What's the word that I'm the just the politically correct word that I'm supposed to use for gay people now? That's fine. Oh, you can use gay. Okay. All right. I'm not sure. But anyways, so I'm just not sure. Anyways, yeah, I'm not sure I'm not ever politically correct. Like, even, you know, for people like that. Because, I mean, I think there is always a feminine and a masculine energy in the relationship.
Oh, always, yeah.
So, I mean, I get told more often than not that I'm like the guy in the relationship.
Oh,
I get told that
people
all
have
the time.
told you that?
I get told it.
Because you're a little tomboyish or something, or what?
I would say, you know, I'm a little, I don't know what it is. It's so weird. They're just, people tend to.
See, I've seen both sides of you.
Right. So I think people just tend to tell me that, like, I am not like most people. I am definitely they don't know what to think. They're like, you know,
You're a strange creature. What do we do with her?
I can be very feminine and I can be very masculine, but it's just because of the world that I grew up in and like my life experiences. And so I've had to be both of those things. I've had to put on that thick skin and that shell and that wall. And, you know, otherwise, like when I was making, you know, 100,000+ a year, there's no way I would have ever been able to make that in that world had I been this like fragile, like feminine thing. I had to buck up, right? And I had to become this thing. And so now it's just like sometimes, you know, depending on who it is and how the conversation's going, I'll go very masculine or I'll go very feminine. Right. And I don't know, I think everyone does that and they need to. But yeah, the jealousy, I think this is a very great thing to be talking about. Because, I mean, what has been your experience now? You
know, one of the women that I'm dating is not a jealous person at all, and I almost want her to be.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because she's just like, no, just go do your own thing. I'm like, but you don't care? Like, I want you to at least kind of text me and...
So remember the guy I was dating?
But no, like, she's not jealous at all.
So the guy I was dating, like you call him Muscles.
Okay, yeah.
Muscles.
Yeah. Alejandro.
Yeah. So... Alejandro, actually, that is one other, like he said all the time.
And for our new listeners, she met him on
Hinge.
So not on SeatGeek.
Not on SeatGeek.
It was an arrangement.
No, it was an arrangement.
It wasn't, no.
But anyway, so just a regular relationship. And he was like, you're definitely the masculine one. So he was used to monogamy, like people wanting to be monogamous with him. And so one of the things one of the reasons why we broke up is he's like, you're just all over the place. And I'm like, what are you talking about all over the place? He's like, well, you know, he's like, you'll want to hang out. And then I like wouldn't be able to hang out. And you would say no worries. And I'm like, what? How is that all over the place? Like, what's wrong with that?
He was wanting you to be upset and wanting you to be.
Well, he was like,
jealous.
well, most of the time when girls say that, they're just, and I'm like, but that's not me.
Yeah.
Like, if you just get to
threw
know
him for a
me.
loop.
Yeah. And I am like, I am like, go do your thing.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. I don't get jealous. I don't get mad. I will probably more often than not end up canceling on you more than you'll cancel on me. And I want you to pay me the same respect. I don't want your feelings to get hurt.
Yeah, you threw him for a loop.
I did, yeah.
He was not expecting that.
No, and he said that would bother him because
Yes.
he was like, he swore, he was like, I swear you don't actually mean this. And I'm like, I say Hakuna Matata all the time. Like that song is just instilled in me. No worries. Like I need to be Australian.
And that's funny because in that book, 3% Man, he talks about that stuff and talks about the things that men can do to shock women just like that.
Right.
And different items where they're like, whoa, this guy's different.
Yeah.
Most men would react this way.
Yeah.
This guy is reacting this way. What is going on? Well, he's a 3% man. He's not acting like the 97% of the others.
Right.
And so that's why I highly recommend that book.
Yeah. And I've definitely, so that one, and I actually recommended that book to him. And he's my friend now. Like we're actually friends.
You guys are friends now.
Yeah, we're friends.
Okay.
We're just friends. Yeah, like we're just friends. But so I've actually recommended that book and I recommended the OMG Yes.
Oh, yes.
Because, because you know,
he
like
kind of needed that, didn't he?
So oral sex is my favorite. Everyone knows that. And he just was lacking in that. I really hope, like, because I want to help people, right? And
Yeah.
I mean, we're at the point now where we're not mad. Like neither one of us is mad at each other for the breakup. We're just kind of like friends, right?
Yeah.
And so we can talk we're to that point now. Like I said, it takes a long time to break up with me. Like but you never truly break up with me because you're always going to be my friend.
You're still here.
Yeah.
We broke up a while ago.
Right?
And you're still here.
Yeah. And we talk about everything,
Oh,
right?
yeah. You're starting to call me more now than you ever did.
Oh, shut up.
Like
no.
6:30 in the morning, I'm trying to sleep, and then my phone rings. What are you doing?
Yeah, no. Well, it's just, because I got so much I want to talk about. Now wake your ass up.
Yeah, and we had a lot to talk about today, but we are out of time, so we're going to wrap
okay.
this up. But it was sure good having Amy.
Yeah.
This is kind of the OG. This is how it started, you and
I
me,
know.
just sitting here yapping about.
I know. I get really chit-chatty. Sorry.
That's all right.
Everyone says, like, what are the comments they say? Oh, yeah. Like, she just cuts you off. Yeah, he tells me what you guys say. So, no, I'm just teasing. I don't care.
Well, like I said, our numbers are growing, and we really appreciate our audience for sharing this podcast with others. And hopefully there's a lot of things that you can take out of this and, you know, take what you want.
Like,
and
please message us because, like, Jackie said, or is it Jackie? Yeah. What Jackie emailed us, we need stuff like that. Like we want to know what you guys are struggling with and we want to try to help you. And I mean, if we need to, we'll get in other experts as well. And just, you know, why not? Like the more different opinions that we have, the better and more likely that you're going to resonate with someone and that they'll be able to help you. Yeah. Right. And that's what we're here for.
Yes. And on our Instagram, guys, follow us there. It's really growing, and we're actually getting more comments on our Instagram than I am through our website, which is kind of cool. I didn't expect that, but a lot of people message me there, and I answer very quickly. So if you want to get a hold of me, go to our Instagram page, Secrets of a Sugar Daddy.
Instaham.
Yeah, follow us there, and on Facebook and TikTok. We are on everything, even Twitter.
Twitter, the tweet?
Even Twitter, yeah. So thanks for listening, and until next episode.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us. If you'd like to connect or even be on the show, we'd love to hear from you at secretsofasugardaddy.com.